everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Janine, obviously known as Graeae Horror, your festival director for the Shared Site Film Festival. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host Claire Napper, who's events director at Strange Little Obsessions. And also our special guest for today's interview is Stephen Graves. He's a filmmaker, and his short, The Dead of Winter, will be screening at the Shared Site Film Festival on Sunday, the 27th of September. Hi both, how are you? Thanks so much for joining.
I'm fantastic. I'm fantastic. Thanks. Looking forward to the festival.
Yeah, I'm really excited and really elated to hear that you'll be joining us as well. So anyone who's coming over the weekend, especially on Sunday, will be able to come and meet Stephen, hopefully, and pick your brains about The Dead of Winter. It's a really great short, but for anyone who hasn't seen it on the film festival circuit, can you give us a bit of a spoiler-free overview on what the film's about?
Yeah, sure thing. So we build it as a classic Christmas ghost story for modern times. So it's set on Christmas Eve. It's about an affluent man who encounters a rough sleeper, and things ensue that become spooky without wanting to give too much away.
Okay. And so what was your premise of setting it at Christmas time? Was it always just something you wanted to play in that kind of joyous space, but make something a bit creepier at that
I mean,
time of year?
I've always been a massive fan of Christmas ghost stories specifically. So the works of like M.R. James, Charles Dickens, obviously, and the BBC Ghost Story for Christmas adaptations that they made initially in the 70s and latterly with Mark Gatiss in the 21st century. And I've always loved the feel of those stories, so I just wanted to sort of make something akin to that within the short format.
Yeah, no, definitely, and your inspiration reads through as well through the film. It's really clear, and obviously anyone who's seen it will know there's a darker undertone, and a messaging behind that. Can you give us a bit of insight into that as well?
Yeah, I mean, initially, I was inspired by actually at Christmas, I went to a BFI event, which was sort of terribly nice and terribly posh and had all sort of gluten-free mince pies and that sort of thing. And then as I was walking back from the BFI along the Strand, there's obviously a soup kitchen there, and it just sparked something. There's like a juxtaposition there. I mean, it's not a particularly novel observation that there are haves and have-nots. But I thought there's something I could work with there, and I decided, as with all horror stories, if you take a sort of a common situation, then just dial everything up to 11, dial the stakes and the consequences up, then you have an interesting story. And then I was also trying to play on Charles Dickens, particularly A Christmas Carol, which has a very similar sort of supernatural morality play feel to it, where he was obviously concerned about social issues. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And what has been the reaction from this film so far from screening at film festivals?
I mean, generally pretty good. We got into a lot of the film festivals we were hoping to, including Fright Fest, and and Screamfest over in Los Angeles, which was quite something. I was actually able to fly over for that and see it play in the Chinese theater. Actually, technically the multiplex around the back of the Chinese theater, but we won't.
It's on the same complex.
But that was exciting, and yeah, audiences seem to have responded really positively to it. So.
Oh, that's great. And was there a different reaction, do you think, from the American audience to the UK? Because I'm always interested to see how our filmmaking language and things kind of translate from a British audience to a US.
That's an interesting question. I didn't notice any particularly different response, but it is a very specifically sort of British cultural institution, the BBC Ghost Story for Christmas, which is what we were trying to ape. So I can't say that I noticed anything particularly different about the response from audiences, but there's definitely something there, I suspect.
Yeah, I think it's probably more between our humour, I think, than anything. Some of it translates and some of it really doesn't. But I just wonder, because there's definitely an underlying of Christmas tradition and British tradition specifically in your short. So I just wondered.
I mean, also that the whole thing basically starts because of social awkwardness, which is a very British trait. So
yeah, it's quintessentially British. Yeah, we're forever awkward. And what was your most enjoyable part of the production process for this film?
I mean, honestly, just seeing it come to life, I'd had the script sort of bubbling around for several years, and then just actually, getting to put that imagery on screen with such a fantastic cast and crew was just thrilling. And actually having a budget to work with as well, which was a novel experience.
I was going to say, and what's been so I'm not overly familiar with your previous works. I mean, have you always kind of played in the spooky space, or have you got kind of any other
No, I mean,
inspiration from it, or-
I've often played in the weird space. So the very first short I
Okay.
did was called A Stitch in Time, and that was all about a guy who accidentally rips a hole in the fabric of space and time, which is actually
Oh.
fabric. Um, and But that was more comedic and I guess a little bit sci-fi fantasy. um I tend to sort of oscillate wildly between horror and comedy. I mean, they are two sides of the same coin, but what usually
Mm.
happens is I'll make a comedy and go, oh, that was so shallow, I need to do something dark and meaningful, and then I'll do a horror and go, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
where did that come from? I need to do something light.
Do you ever
um
think
Find the
of
two of them
maybe
now.
that's it? Would you ever think of blending the two worlds together? Because there are
I
some
mean,
really wonderful horror comedies out there.
yeah, as I say, I think that they're very much they very much use the same skill set, because like horror and comedy are all about setup and punchline. It's just that the punchline is a knife wielding maniac in horror. And I think there are comedic elements, blackly comedic elements in The Dead of Winter as well. Particularly in the sort of the exchanges in the
Mm.
house between Chloe and Harry.
Oh, most definitely. And can you tell us a little bit more about your filmmaking journey and how you came to be a filmmaker on the indie scene?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very long haul, as you can tell from the fact that I don't have any hair anymore. It's just
I'm
moved
hiding a
fast.
lot of grey under here, don't worry.
um, I mean, I started out just as a sort of teenage enthusiast for film. I wasn't like Edgar Wright rushing out and actually making stuff as a kid, because I didn't really. It never really connected that you could go and do that. And then when I was how old was I? I was like 18. I just finished university, and I managed to get a job on a film set as an extra, and suddenly had this sort of moment of realization. Oh, it's not movie magic love. It's a guy in cargo shorts called Barry going around with a roll of gaffer tape. And I suddenly realized, oh, you can actually do this. So I did a master's in film at UCD in Dublin, and then slowly, because making films is a very expensive and drawn out process, started making short films, and that got me to where I am today, with Dead of Winter, and hopefully more to come. So.
Okay, I was going to ask next, what have you got next in the pipeline?
Well, depending on when this podcast is going out, I've got a short on a platform called, or a pitch for a short on a platform called Decentralized Pictures, which lets the community vote on what project they want to go ahead, and the winner of the award gets their film, gets, I think it's like $20,000 and Sofia Coppola as their mentor. So obviously there's been like 2,000 entries, so I don't
Right.
hold that much over winning. But the project I've pitched for that is one that I've been trying to get funded for a little while, which is called Mr. Mittens, and that is a found footage horror short shot from the perspective of a cat's collar camera.
I'm all for this.
Yeah,
So
we're cat
Right.
mamas.
Yeah.
so
Perfect.
the pitch is basically it's Good Boy but with a cat crossed with the Blair Witch Project.
So here for it. Where's my
Yeah.
murder anyway?
Oh, when's the deadline for that? We'll make sure this is out by then.
So the deadline for the voting round is I think it's end of July. So
Okay.
if you go out in the next few days, you might be able to scare up some votes.
We'll do our best for you. Oh, wonderful. And what is it that inspires you creatively?
Well, that's a interesting question. I mean, I got into horror partly because when I was a kid, one of my friends scared the bejesus out of me reading passages from one of the Nightmare on Elm Street novelizations to me. So I guess it's therapy, really. Sort of, but genuinely, I'm a complete wuss when it comes to actually watching horror films. So taking a sort of analytical filmmaking stance is helps, because you're sitting there going, okay, the knife wielding maniac is going to jump out of that corner, or that's the obvious place for him to jump out of, so he's probably actually going to jump out of there. Or the beats that horror films follow, they're very musical, you know, it's the sort of build up and release of tension, so going, okay, it's going to happen now. And in terms of the actual ideas for my films and my stories, it's just a big sort of cocktail of influences. There's a lot of 70s British horror stuff in there, like, you know, the BBC Ghost Stories for Christmas, Psychomania, The Exorcist figures quite heavily as well. That idea of juxtaposing the incredibly mundane with the fantastical. So weirdly for me, I saw The Exorcist for the first time on the big screen quite recently. Seen it before on VHS and DVD and whatever. And weirdly, the moment that made me almost queasy was not actually the supernatural stuff. It was all the stuff in the hospital where she's having, you know, the injections and stuff. And you go, that's really interesting. And the director said that he tried to shoot it in a very sort of documentary style, to sort of heighten that weird juxtaposition of the weird. I think Doctor Who obviously is a huge influence on me, and John Pertwee talked about the Yeti on the loo in Tooting Bec, which is this sort of idea that, as I say, like the fantastical intruding on the incredibly domestic and mundane creates a really weird sort of dissonance.
It's definitely interesting that you cite The Exorcist, because I got that vibe as well. I watched that film too young, initially had a visceral reaction to the supernatural, but then watching it when you're older, it is the more kind of true to life everyday experience. And having been in and out of hospital for different things as well, it's just like you can relate to that procedure in different levels. So I think, yeah, you're right. Placing something horrific in the everyday and the mundane is really where you're going to get people. And I think also the subverting expectations musically, in particular in scores, you say, like, you're placing the setup musically and then the score drops and then the audience is waiting. It's like a roller coaster. They're up on the peak and they're waiting for the drop. But if you keep them hanging a bit longer or you misdirect, then that's always a good fun trick to play, because then we're on our tenterhooks for even longer, and the payoff's worth it.
Yeah, and actually shout out to Holly, who did the fantastic score for The Dead of Winter, including spooky sleigh bells, which I was keen to get in.
I noticed. It was so wonderful. It's weird, like when we were screening these for programming, watching them, June, July, and then thinking, oh, okay, but it'll be end of September, so we'll be almost at the right time for spooky sleigh bells. But when you're in the midst of a heat wave, I was kind of like, well, this tonally isn't sitting right. But
yeah, we actually shot it in January, interestingly. So it was kind of the right period of the year. It was unseasonably warm when we shot it. And we'd gone to all this effort to get all the actors in, like, loads and loads of layers of thermals to make sure they were comfortable. They were boiling. But
I was going to ask as well, how do you approach casting, for example, for something like this as well? Do you have an idea? Like, I'm assuming you wrote this as well, so did you have an idea when you were creating the story about who you had in mind, or did that idea change when you met the right person?
I wrote it sort of sight unseen, and then when it came to casting, I was laser focused on getting James Swanton involved in it, who's obviously, like, played so many terrifying creatures in horror films. I'm proud to say we got him in a BBC Ghost Story homage before the BBC got him in a BBC Ghost Story, so
that
quite a pride. Amazing. So yeah, I was really keen to get him because he has a real presence, even though he doesn't have much to say in this film. He even if he's just standing there, you can feel that presence. I mean, there have been a few roles where he has just stood there in some monstrous costume. And he's also a fantastic performer when it comes to delivering dialogue and embodying character. And then the other roles. So Harry Oliver Maltman, we got through a casting agent, and I'd seen his work before in sort of, well, in horror shorts, but also I was kind of conscious that he's horror adjacent because he's mostly known as a comedic performer.
Fantastic.
So I thought, oh, we'll do the Robin Williams 1 hour photo thing and get him in a straight horror. And then Christina was just that was I didn't expect to get her. I thought, well, we'll try, and then and I deliberately written the role such that it was so that we could potentially get a name for that one, so that it was like one day's filming instead of the full shoot. And yeah, just to have her from Hex and Doctor Who and Casino Royale as well, was amazing.
No, that's so cool. And I really love that you've, as you say, you cast somebody there that's got a comedic background, because timing is everything in both genres. And we're seeing a real influx at the moment of comedians trying their hand at horror and succeeding, excelling, in fact. So it's an untapped resource that I think more people need to look at. It's brilliant. Wonderful. And then, so obviously you'll be joining us in September. I wanted to know personally, have you had an opportunity to have a look at the wider event, the Strange Little Obsessions event, and see what else is on offer at all over the weekend? Aside from
I mean, I'm really excited to see some of the program of talks and catch like the other shorts that are screening. A few of which I've seen in other festivals, but there's lots that I haven't. So I'm looking forward to and connecting with all the filmmakers that are going to be there as well.
Yeah, so we've also got a wonderful, because it's a wider genre event as well for a neurodiverse community. So we've got all sorts of actors across the world of independent horror doing meet and greets and things as well. And as you say, the panels are wonderful. We've got such a breadth of representation across independent genre, which is great. So yeah, really excited to have you there generally, and to hopefully come and absorb some of the atmosphere. And we're going to have a filmmaker hub as well. So if you have some time outside of screenings, if anyone wants to come and ask you some questions or anything like that, then there'll be a space in a moment for that as well. Cool. So if you're happy, I want to run on to our quickfire round, which hopefully let's see. And these generally
hopefully it's not too slow.
No, well, we'll do our best. I mean, yesterday's quickfire lasted about 40 minutes, bless them, because we had Charlie, Rob and Douglas Torn, and if you know them at all, they talk, bless them. We love them to pieces, but it took a while.
I finished last night. I was sitting there about an hour after, maybe about 2 hours after we'd finished the recording, and my face was still hurting from where I'd laughed so much.
It was great. Cool. Okay, so generally I found with these, but that's just my personal opinion. First answer is generally the best one, but we can digress if needed. Okay, so supernatural or psychological horrors?
Ooh, I mean, I'd have to say supernatural because I've just done a ghost story. So, but I think to elaborate, I think supernatural horror kind of is psychological horror as well, because one of the films that I was trying to homage with this a bit was The Innocents, where you're never entirely sure whether there is a ghost or whether it's a figment of the protagonist's imagination. And we actually nicked the thing that they do in The Innocents, which is that you always see the protagonist's reaction before you see the ghost, to suggest that it might all be happening in his head. So
yeah, I love that idea of keeping the audience guessing, and they take away their own opinion out of a film as well. That's really cool. Okay, where was I? Okay, last film you watched?
Last film I watched wasn't a horror, actually. It was The Invite, which had me doubled up laughing. The Olivia Wilde one.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't know that one, I'm afraid. No.
Well worth a watch. And it has Edward Norton doing a very atypical performance.
Oh, I do like a bit of Edward Norton, to be fair, so you've just twisted the arm. I might have to check that one out. Okay, a favourite movie snack?
Favorite movie snack? Nothing noisy, because I feel like you owe it to the other film goers not to sit there shoveling popcorn in your face. So I don't know, ice cream, I guess. Oh, well, I would say ice cream because we just had a heat wave, so I spent a lot of time just going to the cinema to escape it.
Anywhere with air conditioning at this stage. I'm even standing in doorways of retail outlets. Like, this will do.
Genuinely, there was a point when I was just going, what's on? Okay, National Theatre at home. That's like 3 hours. Good. Okay, we'll do that.
A couple of weeks ago, we were going around Nottingham, kind of putting up some posters and stuff, and certain places we walked into, and it's like, standing here for a minute because it's so cool.
Exactly. I had the opposite effect though. During the heat wave, I went to a horror all-nighter at one of our showcase cinemas, and they had four films on, and by the time the second film had played, because my body had already cooled down, I was like, I need a blanket, I need something, it's too cold in here, because you dress for summer and then you forget it's 5 a.m. when you leave and you're like, oh, it's not as warm when I went in, but there we are. Okay, a film you wish you could have directed, as in an idea you really loved and wish you'd thought of first, or a film you'd like to remake?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm not being very quick here.
That's okay.
Um,
This one can take some time. This is a well thought out answer, to be fair.
okay. The film I love that okay. I haven't actually seen it, but there's a film called Firebrand that came out a couple of years ago, which is all about Henry VIII's last wife. And I'd spent about 2 years researching and writing a script about Henry VIII's last wife, only to open the newspaper and see that Alicia Vikander was already doing it. So that, I guess. But in terms of, I guess the big sort of formative influence on me when I was a kid, again, watched it too early, was Terminator, which is one of the most perfect scripts ever made. And it is technically a horror because I think it's actually a slasher movie with
Terrifying.
a robot. Where the reason that it's sort of marching inexorably on isn't that it's like supernatural, like Jason or something. It's just it's a robot. I mean, the problem with that is I'm not sure what I could add to it because, and also there've been so many shit Terminator sequels, not excluding T2, that we really don't need another one. And actually, I would if I had $1 billion, I would buy the rights and just bury it so that no one can make any more.
Would
That's
you
what
do
needs to happen
something?
with certain things, isn't it? Like people should just buy the rights and hide it, lock it up forever. So certain things
It'd be a
won't
public
be done.
service.
Yeah, I feel that's one franchise that definitely deserves better. But I wonder though, if you had the rights, would you not do something in the same universe? Like with that, but not the same story, because I feel like every adaptation that they've done has tried to add to the existing story, and that's where it's fallen apart because it was perfect.
That's the thing. The problem with the Terminator is the purity of the original idea. So the first film is a slasher movie with a robot. The second movie is a slasher movie with a robot on a slightly bigger canvas that becomes more of an action film. It's aliens to Alien, I guess. And the problem with every single Terminator film after that is that they become films about time travel because they're all trying to explain why there are more Terminators coming back and why the future war hasn't happened because it's past 1997 now. It should, we should be in a nuclear wasteland. So they end up becoming films about time travel, which the first one never was. That was just a plot device. So yeah, I mean, could you do a film with a similar premise? That is a horror movie where time travel is a plot device. That would be interesting. I think, as I say, I don't think there's any point in going back and just doing Terminator again because the first one did it so perfectly. So,
No, it's really interesting when you start dissecting it and think about actually what would I bring to the story. Probably
the biggest disappointment for me was when they did Terminator Genesis and they were like, we're going back to the 80s and we're recasting a young Sarah Connor. I was like, we're going to get to see Emilia Clarke with massive 80s hair, and then they didn't do that.
Didn't do it. It was such a waste. What an opportune moment.
They should have given Linda Hamilton's lion's mane to her. It's
yeah, and do you know what? Given her that haircut wouldn't have been a bad resemblance either. I don't think. But there we are, wasted opportunity. Do you have a favourite film score?
A favorite film score? Yeah. Okay. So, loads of them actually. I mean, there's all the sort of iconic ones that have those, like Tubular Bells and The Exorcist or whatever. I think The Witch was a really interesting score because of the apprehension engine. So I don't know if you know the story about this, but the guy who did it, Mark Corvin, was really annoyed about everyone using exactly the same samples on every single horror score. So he decided to go and make he commissioned a musical instrument called the Apprehension Engine that is like designed to organically create weird sounds. So it's got all sorts of curly whirly bits of metal that you draw violin bows across, and bits of rubber that you twang to make weird noises and resonances and stuff. Anyway, the reason why is that when we did Dead of Winter, I'd mentioned somewhere in our pitch deck that I really like this, and the guy who made the Apprehension Engine somehow found this online, got in touch with me and said, oh, here's a bunch of musicians who have apprehension engines. So we weren't able to get them to actually play on the score, but one of them, a guy called Jacob Drab, gave us a whole load of samples. So we were able to use like the apprehension engine in the score for The Dead of Winter. So
That's
that
So
amazing.
cool. That is awesome. I didn't know that actually. That's wild. Because I'm really a big fan of scores that don't play against convention. Things like Psycho, obviously, where the strings are used more of a weapon than they are an accompaniment. And Under the Skin is a prime one as well. It gets you. It really does get under your skin, and it's not okay. I like things that, because part of viewing film is not just the vision, it's the audio
absolutely.
experience as well.
And
Yeah, that's
on a completely different note, it's not horror at all, but I really enjoyed the score for Masters of the Universe recently.
because it's Queen. It took me back to my childhood, and I loved
It was
it.
like
Oh,
someone the what's it Pemberton, I think his name is Daniel Pemberton. He just totally understood the assignment. It was like He-Man is Flash Gordon crossed with Conan. Let's get the guys who did Flash Gordon to, put the darkness on there, get Brian May doing harmony guitars. So I really
beautiful.
enjoyed that.
And then just to have the little flashbacks with Freddie as well, with the
Yes.
original song I did have a little tear every time I hear his voice. He's like a voice of my childhood, so I was like, couldn't help myself. And just to speak on Motu for a second, was the Dolph Lundgren cameo.
God, yeah.
Wonderful. I laughed so hard I couldn't stop laughing. I love him so much.
The really funny thing is though that me and my mate Ben had an hour-long conversation in the pub before going to see that film, where we were cheering about how millennial franchise stuff was on the way out, and we're seeing this new wave of young filmmakers doing The Backrooms and Obsession and whatever. And then we went to see that and just like, no, they totally saw us coming.
Yeah. It was great though. I loved it.
Two middle-aged men watching this.
No, I loved it, and I have a friend who's in the film as well. So, like a personal level, I was like, that was really cool to see my friend on the big screen. That was wild. Okay. Is there an actor you'd really love to work with? Put your wish list out there.
Is there an actor I'd really love to work with? So many, and all for weird and different reasons. I mean, I dream of working with Russell Crowe, because I love his late career reinvention as this sort of big presence. He's basically turning into Orson Welles or something, and I love that for him. And I really wanted, that my fantasy casting for the Henry VIII thing was him as Henry VIII. Because Henry VIII, if you think about it, was basically like a rugby lad. He was very handsome in his youth, rugby lad who did his knee in and then just kept eating pies at the same rate that he did before. And I think Russell Crowe as a Kiwi Aussie completely would understand that. So Russell Crowe.
That's an interesting casting. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, well, someone needs to do it. And then who else? Gosh. I mean, I would crawl over broken glass to work with the League of Gentlemen guys,
Yes.
In fact, that was the proudest moment on the film circuit. Was we played in Helltor Festival, and they had like Kim Newman and Reece Shearsmith in the audience, and I was like, they've seen my film.
Oh, I love that.
So,
this is the third interview we've done this week where Reece's name has appeared. So we're putting it out into the ether for all of you.
We're
like, Reece,
manifesting.
watch our stuff. Come on, Reece, we need you. Oh God, that would be wild. Okay, and then a film you wish you could watch for the first time all over again.
Ooh, I mean, it's got to be one with a massive twist in, like The Usual Suspects or something, hasn't it? Or The Sixth Sense. No, actually, not The Sixth Sense. Unbreakable, because The Sixth Sense doesn't really make sense. It's the Sixth Sense plot twist. If you actually watch the film back, he's kind of editing around it. So there's lots of tricks where he's sort of having Bruce Willis already in the scene, but you go, he should be aware that he's just appeared in this scene. And they have these sort of band-aids over the plot holes, like they don't know they're dead, or they just sort of appear without realizing it. Whereas the plot twist on Unbreakable actually does make sense, and it's one of the most perfect plot twists ever. So
Yeah, see, I'm one of those, unfortunately. I had The Sixth Sense ruined for me. I was going into a screening as another screening was coming out and someone mentioned it. So for me, that experience has always been a film that I've just never bonded with, never understood, didn't really. I was just like, well, this is really poorly made, because the same thing I could see, like, well, you can tell he's a ghost. How can you not tell? How can you not see that? But I guess as somebody not going in with that vision. But yeah, I love Unbreakable, and I love Split as well, because James McAvoy did a hell of a performance in that.
James McAvoy in that was I was literally in my head just thinking about him, and just like, he was incredible, just beyond.
Really, really
Yeah,
good.
there's another performer that would love to work with, but
yeah, and it's another one who gets better with every performance I see them in as well. He's just outstanding. Okay, final question then, and this might catch you, so you might need a little bit of time. If you were to screen a double feature of 2 films for us to get to know you, which 2 films would you choose?
ooh, that's a really interesting one. Okay, so I mean, if we're going strictly horror, I think, like, tonally, it would have to be something British, like, well, I'm looking at my DVD shelf now.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna say Ghost Stories, the one based on the stage play, which I saw on stage recently. Actually, it was fantastic. Because I was really inspired by the imagery in that. I mean, you can see in Dead of Winter, we've got the hooded figure, who's sort of turning up, very much like the one in Ghost Stories, and we were trying to sort of nick that framing, because that's like a trope in so many Brit horror films, where there's a spooky ghost standing on a hillside, and we didn't quite get that in the film because it appears on the telly in the background, but it's it's close enough.
The homage, we got it.
and I'm going to say my poster here, Blind Terror or See No Evil, because that was made in my hometown of Wokingham.
That's
and it's actually set in Wokingham, because you can see the old train station, and it's got Wokingham written above the train station, which is hilarious to me, because the opening shot of that film it's supposed to be one of these sort of the state of Britain in the 70s. Everything's gone to shit. The kids are watching awful stuff, and they've gone feral or whatever. And so they're coming out of this cinema that's showing a double bill of like grindhouse type films. I think it's like what is it? The Convent Murders and Rapist Cult, and it's like it's like oh god, it's like Dead Meat. The sort of Britain is sick. And they're coming out of this in Wokingham, which is like the most genteel market town imaginable.
It's really funny. I was going to say that I'm originally from Brighton, and the one thing that really gets me is every time, I don't watch it regularly anymore. I used to watch it quite a lot, because a lot of my friends were into quadrophenia. As like growing up there, we were like, oh, let's watch films that were filmed here, and you're like watching it, and continuity wise, I'm like, well, that's like several miles that way. It's all on Brighton seafront, but of course it's stretched out of it. It's really funny when you see things that are recognizable from areas you've grown up in, and then you just think to yourself, you could have done better.
The visual continuity is actually pretty good in it. It's just the sort of the tonal thing is wild. I don't know, maybe Wokingham in the 1970s was a hell of a lot grittier than it is now.
Well, maybe there's some research to be done there. Maybe that's your next thing. Yeah, hell in Wokingham. Oh, that could be fun. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Stephen. I've reached the end of my questions for today. So I want to thank you so much, first of all, for submitting and trusting us to share as a first-time event your film, and to bring it to a new audience in Nottingham. For everyone watching as well, this is a reminder that the Dead of Winter will be screening on Sunday, the 27th of September. And you can grab your tickets for Strange Little Obsessions at strangelittle.obsessions.co.uk. Day, weekend and VIP passes are available, and we'll be announcing very soon. In fact, by the time this goes out, you should be able to book your seat for any screening across the weekend at no extra cost. So that will be included in your pass price. So check the website and be sure to come down on Sunday. Come and meet Stephen. Come and enjoy some wonderful independent horror. Trust me, the lineup hit this year. It's incredible. You're not going to want to miss it.